All right, welcome everybody to another episode. We got Ryan Margolin here from Professional Hair Labs, he is the CEO of this company. Good to have you, man.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it, Jake. Looking forward to having a talk.
It's going to be good, man. So the first question I got to ask right off the bat is Professional Hair Labs is this is a company that's been around for a couple of years. Could you go back and tell us the origin story? Because it seems like it's a family affair in some ways, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So the company was actually started in 1994 by my father, Howard. Both him and my mother had operated hair studios in New York and Florida for some time. And after a period of time, due to the products that were being used by technicians, my mother got chemical poisoning, and it kind of shifted the whole business to from being a hair replacement studio to where my dad wanted to make a different, a much different impact in the industry. So he sold the businesses and he went into the creation and manufacturing of a safe, effective product for hair replacements. At the time there was a lot of hard bonds and a lot of bonds that had chemicals in it: toluene, xylene, hexane. So he wanted to create a non-toxic version. So he started to work with a couple of chemists and over the years developed a very small product line. And it took a little while to kind of get used to because the application methods were different than the standard industry norms. But eventually it started to penetrate the marketplace. And as we started to learn, we developed and expanded the line based upon the feedback data and requests that we had gotten for other products from our clients. We realized, there was different application methods that we could use it for, and this led us to kind of dig a little deeper into the technology, the adhesion technology available in the marketplaces. And eventually it led us to the point in 2009 where we were happy enough with the technology that was available. We could take our base formulation and go back and really start to, make improvements on all of the feedback that we had gotten over the years. Because it was so new back in 1994 and all the way through, the 2000s, that there wasn't a lot of, really new adhesion technology available. Mm-hmm. But eventually, it did come to be available, and we started to obtain those and make changes to our formulation. And in 2009, we launched Ghost Bond to the marketplace. And that's really the product that revolutionized everything. So from 2009 to date is really where the company started to gain a lot of traction and a lot of exposure, and a lot of our products got into the hands of technicians and hair wearers who wanted something different that they could rely on and that they had peace of mind that they would be secure. When they're out and about, that their hair wouldn't lift, or that they were applying products that were safe for their skin.
So that's awesome. So many questions from that. What was the adhesion technology that was starting to be discovered around 2009 that allowed Ghost Bond to come out?
Yeah, so that it was mainly predicated around waterproof, water resistance and oil resistance. So a lot of the water-based, one of the common things that happens with water-based adhesives is that over the period that they're attached to the scalp, your body temperature raises and it goes back. So even the products at the very beginning for us, the water-based products, they, over a period of 4 weeks that they were attached to the scalp, they would revert back to a semi-cured state and then revert back to a cured state. So we always recommended that our product line and procedures were followed in order to get the 4-week hold. Realistically, if they weren't followed, you might get a week, you might get 2 weeks, but it would eventually start to lift because of it was reverting and then curing again. So it wouldn't have the same adhesion performance, because it was compromised over the period of time. So when we were able to get a hold of this technology, we started to work on our own formulations again, and that's where we were able to get pure water and oil resistance. And that's really the key factor that made Ghost Bond so popular, because we knew we had a strong product offering. We knew that it was strong and it held the way it should, but our challenge was getting it to stay, over the 4 weeks without the use of every single product that we had in our line. Because look, let's face it, people who wear hair, they don't want to spend an hour and a half, doing their hair at home, or they don't want to spend an hour and a half in, a hair replacement studio having it serviced. They want to be out half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. So they might choose to use only a few different products from the line, and they still expect that performance. So we've been able to now provide that for the last, 10 or 11 years.
That's awesome. That's great. Now, what is the main factors? I'm curious about this from the more scientific perspective, and you might have some knowledge talking directly with the chemists that you work with. What are the main factors in bond duration? So a lot of people say, well, it has to do with your body chemistry. It's a very vague term, right? Like body chemistry could be a billion different things, and of course, temperature has an effect on the curing of bonds. But what are those main factors? Is there a couple of variables that it can be isolated down to?
There's one really. Now, what you just said there, so I can touch base on it. The most common thing is, and this is the most common answer you'll get from any company who supplies adhesives, is that, different body chemistries provide different performance. It could come down to medication. It could come down to so many different variables. But the reality of it is, what it really comes down to is pH balance. It becomes that pH balance of the skin. And the only way to retain pH balance is to ensure that you're using the right products during the detach and reattach process, which means all the cleansing products that you're using. So to give you an example, we have a 7-step process, and we commonly get the question, like, why are all these 7 steps necessary? And it's like, well, look, realistically, they're not always necessary, but if you want the best performance, this is how to get it. These processes have been perfected in our labs, tested, trialed rigorously in every single climate across the world. And the reason that we advise it is simply because if you can retain the pH balance of the skin throughout the process of the detach and reattach, your adhesive is not going to give way. Yeah. So, for example, and I can, if you have a moment, I'll start from the very beginning and explain why.
I'm super interested in this stuff. I'm nerdy.
All right. Okay. So we have our first product, right, and it's called UltraSafe, and it's an all-natural biodegradable adhesive remover. And the reason that it's all natural is, again, you're using it on the scalp, so you don't want to disturb the pH balance. So if you're wearing a poly unit, you're going to start at the front hairline and work your way back until it's removed. Or if you're using a lace unit, you can spray it down through the top of the lace, and what it does is it softens the adhesive, so you can remove it. You continue on to clean the scalp with the UltraSafe. Now, one of the questions we get is like, well, look, I mean, why can't we use alcohol or citrus, And it's like, yeah, you could. And and I'm not denying that they work well. But what happens is that any type of alcohol or citrus-based product, they're strong astringents. So what do? The moment they hit the skin, they absorb all of the natural oils from the skin, and that throws your pH balance off. So everything is fine for the next 10 or 15 minutes. But what happens is, by the time you get to the application of the adhesive and you apply it, your sebaceous glands are overproducing oils, and all those fresh oils are pumping up into the adhesive, and it's not allowing it to cure correctly. And some of the how you notice that that's happening is if there's a yellow discoloration or like a goo underneath the hair system when you're removing it. If it gets itchy during the time you're wearing it, that's another sign that your pores have been opened and things are seeping into them as the adhesive dries. So by using UltraSafe, this is our way. It's a soy-based product. This is our way of saying, look, if you use this product, you retain the pH balance. So we always recommend not using alcohol or citrus-based products to clean the scalp, because that's really the key to all of this.
So it's a soy-based solvent.
Yeah.
Now, what is it in soy that is acting like alcohol or?
Well, you have to remember as well. It's like soy-based and then water. Like water is a natural solvent in itself. So you look at all this. So excuse me for 1 second. Yeah. You look at all of this happening, and it's when the adhesive comes into contact with water, naturally it will soften to a degree. But the soy is what helps break it down. It's just the composition of it, So when you're using that, sorry, bear with me 1 second here. Yeah, sorry. When you're using that, when you're using that, it just basically helps the soy helps break down the adhesive, and basically that just allows an easy removal. Now, it does take a little bit longer than alcohol or citrus. It wouldn't be as strong, but the key performance factor is retaining the pH balance, and this allows it to allows the skin to remain level.
How many people do you think are aware of this issue of pH skin balance?
Not enough. So not enough. Look, it's one of the most common questions we get. It's one of the most common questions we get either via customer service queries that we get, or from our distributors or our wholesalers. Is that, look, we've got a client who's saying they have this problem or this challenge, and we're just trying to figure out how to get around that. And this is the answer we provide them with every single time. And in most cases, I would say over 95%, it fixes the issue for them, because those two products, citrus and alcohol, ultimately will affect the performance in every capacity. All around, unless you're using a solvent-based adhesive, you're going to run into, adhesion problems with a water-based adhesive if you're using alcohol and citrus.
Well, thank you for telling me that I did not have an original question there, and that I was asking the most basic question of all basic questions.
Well, it's usually, look, it's my philosophy that usually the simplest answers are the most accurate. Yeah. So, it is at its core. This question is really the key to everything.
Yeah. I agree with you. From my very expert opinion here, but it's really interesting because I'm more of an analytical person, and I like looking and finding answers. And everybody that I've asked, from many different stylists and people that are working with these these adhesives and all of these chemicals and the systems, they all give me the same answer, and it starts to sound like a cult, and that's that it's body chemistry. And it's like, okay, it's body chemistry, but that's like this coverall statement for it could be a million different things. And I would love to, I want to, and I have a project I'll share with you after this that I'm working on, that I'm really curious about what the main factors are inside of this, because it's a major pain point for anybody that's inside of this industry. Is like you said in the beginning, people don't want to be spending an hour and a half doing this, and they definitely don't want to be doing it at regular intervals. So every single week, or 5 days, or God forbid every 3 days, right? If their body chemistry or their pH skin balance is completely off, and it's wrecking the bond. Yeah.
And not only that, it's the key factor in what causes contact dermatitis, and that is an extremely uncomfortable position. Absolutely. Because if you think about it, you're using alcohol or citrus on the skin, it's opening your pores. You have a reaction, you're covering that reaction with an adhesive that's also seeping into the pores. It's going to be extremely uncomfortable for a lot of people, and this is where you get blisters, burns. We've seen it all. We see it all the time, and this is why we do what we do. As a family-based business, it's not just a company for us. This is a mission for us, and this is why everything is so important. It's why we, as a B2B company, will handle every single B2C query that comes through our portals, because we know ultimately, the individuals who are either using our product or who are having the product used on them in their salon or studio they're the key to everything. These are the individuals we need to be catering to, because it's their health. It's their everything on the line.
Yeah, it is, and I think not a lot of people take into consideration the long tail effects of potential products that they're using. Going back, and this is a question I wanted to ask at the beginning, but going back to your mother that was dealing with chemicals. Was it chemical poisoning?
Poisoning, yeah.
Did you ever discover what chemical in particular was causing it? Was it the toluene?
Yeah, look, back in that time, there were so many different products, and there were so many different types of chemicals. But the core compound of solvent-based ingredients that were used as cutting agents were toluene, xylene, and hexane, and they were used in such a wide array of products that we can't tell exactly, or could never tell exactly what it was, but it was just the overall exposure, even with ventilation, even with masks, it was just the overall exposure over time. Yeah. And, fortunately, she did come out of it, but she retired. but it did have a long-lasting effect on her to this day, and it still does. And this is why this is so important to us. It's for us, it's about finding solutions, not just trying to solve problems for individuals. This is about trying to fix something for us, and this is why everything we do is so important to us, because it just resonates with us every time we see an issue, or we see someone who has a reaction, or every time we come across somebody who is just having severe confidence issues because they just can't get the products to perform the way they should. It just resonates with us, and this is why we're here.
Love that, man. That's great. So what is it like being on, what is the back end? Let's start macro. What is the back end of the hair system industry, the wig industry? Like, what is that world like?
It's so we don't deal with hair itself. So like we have contact with everyone in the world who does hair, and that's not where we want to be. That's
inside of that world, you must have contact with the different companies that are selling these, right? And Absolutely. Have business correlations with them. I mean, I'm curious about like what's the interaction between all of these different businesses. Is it kind of like, does it feel like the good old boys, where people that have been there for a very, very long time they're rooted and they think that they can call the shots and they can kind of get away with everything? Is there a lot of innovation? Is there a lot of partnership?
Yeah, so yes to all of the above. So you have a new generation of management and owners coming through, and all of them, well, not all of them, but a high amount of them would be based on the older generation. And this is really where all of us, including myself, are learning this from. Like the amount of knowledge that I pull from my father, even on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. There's always something to learn, and it's because of the older generation who have built these massive companies and who have learned what they've learned over the last 40, 50, 60 years. It's enabled us to take that knowledge and actually improve it, create better systems, and when I say systems, I mean physical hair systems, mm-hmm. and business systems as well. Because look, the world is changing. The world has changed, and the way we marketed 10 years ago is totally different to how we market now. And we couldn't do what we do now without the information that we have from the last 4 or 5 decades. So there is a lot of partnerships that still go on, and everyone does know everyone, and have had dealings with everyone in some way, shape, or form over the years, and things that you wouldn't even think. But the industry itself is a very enjoyable industry to work in, but it's a very competitive industry too. So it can be a little cutthroat at times.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. What industry can't? I think it's all about how you choose to view it. We're very much of the belief we stay in our lane. We know where we're meant to be, and we don't deviate from that. Yeah. And that's allowed us to build very good partnerships and relationships with a lot of different companies, even on a private label end, because mm-hmm. We just do our thing and we don't step on toes, because we're a big believer in the building of these relationships. We provide the support, we provide the experience, and we learn a lot as well during the process. So it's a win-win for us. You might have this conversation with somebody else, they might look at it a lot differently, but for me, that's my perspective on it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you've been inside of the sorry, not fashion. You've been inside of like the beauty industry for quite a while now. I mean, I'm looking at your LinkedIn, and I'm really curious about your kind of trajectory and how this happened, because you've worked with Aesthetic Technology, which was your own company, correct? Yeah,
it's a consulting company. Yeah, mm-hmm. So that was my, or that is my, sorry, not that was my, so that's a consulting side of things that I do. So I suppose moving into my background a bit, I was working in sales. Before I moved with the company, with Professional Hair Labs. And it was in 2007, 2008 where the crash came, so the sales I was working in was in the construction industry. So obviously that was the first thing to go. So I had spoken, in depth, with my dad. And at that point we were, there were some changes that were needed in the company. It had remained stagnant for so many years. It was doing well, but it was plateauing. So I took the opportunity and went and spent the first 6 months just watching and learning of how things worked. And the next 6 months were spent on building a plan. And then after a year, this plan was implemented. We tore everything down, rebranded, rebuilt everything, and we hit the market. And that's when Ghost Bond came out. And from that point, it's just been year after year, consistent growth. In 2009, we moved to the States, myself and my wife. We helped, over that period of time with the team that we had. We over doubled revenue during that 18-month period. And at the end of 2010, we decided to take some of that profit and we invested in opening a European facility, which is where I'm at now. And every single year, just year after year, it's just growth. And every single country brings, they have different requirements. There's different purchasing behaviors, there's different interactions, and it took quite a while on the European side to actually learn that. But we're getting there slowly but surely, and we're at the point now where things are moving really well, and we're reaching the demographic of people that we had initially set our goals on, and from this point forward, we're going to diversify into deeper into the manufacturing space. Focus on really pushing our current product line to a wider audience, but actually offering our manufacturing services to a wider audience as well.
So what will the end of that look like if people take up your manufacturing services? What do you see as kind of the future of PHL?
Bringing these types of genuine high performance safe products to the marketplace in a manner that kind of caters to different demographics. I mean, you've got individuals who are interested in formulations, using only organic products or ingredients, and then you've got individuals who want specific types of products with specific types of water in it. So it's
specific types of water.
Yeah, look. So you look at like even distilled water, like there's different there's different levels of distillation, and each of those levels, like, they don't vary a whole lot, but like we've had many of our customers come to us and say, hey, listen, we would like this type of distilled water in our formulas. Can you do this for us? And it's like, well, not right now, but you give us 12 months and we got this. It's because we're making plans as we go along. We have, like, even just last month, we've implemented, another 4,000 liter tanks, into our systems, and we have the distilled water machine coming in to provide this service over the next 6 weeks in our warehouse downstairs. So it's just about taking the data that we get and actually making forward plans and making the progress to move in that direction, because we know that there's a market there for it. And I think this is this is the way the industry is going. People are becoming more health conscious, and they're taking the information that they have and they're trying to figure out ways to build something from it. And this is where our support is going to come in. We will have the facilities to do this. And look, that's really where our focus is. In Zephyr Hills, which I believe is not too far from where you are. We've just finished about 4 months ago our 17,500 square foot new office space and warehouse space, but we're building another 17,000 square foot facility right beside it, starting probably in a couple of months. Foundations are laid for it and everything. So there's a lot of big things happening. It's just it just takes a little bit of time to get there.
That's so awesome. Yeah, just over in Zephyr Hills, just right across the pond is
that's it.
Is where Ghost Bond is happening. That's so cool to hear.
Yeah, it is. And this is it. It's look, I mean, Florida's a great place to to have a company, and there's we've built a really good team in house, and we work together very well. And look, we'll just continue to keep moving forward the best way that we can, and hopefully, in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, our company will reach the levels where, that we set. Because look, I mean, we just want to make as much impact as possible, and and let people know there's a different way to do things, and whatever that entails between now and that time, it'll get done.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Do you have much vision, or do you see some new things coming inside of the like all natural space, for whether that's for new products or new kind of adhesion technology or anything that's kind of on the horizon?
For adhesion technology, not so much. I mean, we were toying with UV. But you see, with UV comes a lot of different challenges as well.
What do you mean you're toying with UV?
So basically, when you apply water-based adhesives, they dry within 24 to 48 hours completely. This is why we recommend, look, don't have a shower between 24 or 48 hours after you apply the adhesive. And what really happens then is people hear, oh, what you really mean is don't get my hair wet. It's like, no, don't have a shower, because when you get in the shower, your body heat rises, and where does the heat escape? Through your scalp. Yeah. So, even if you don't get your hair wet, there's still a variation of temperature in your body that's rising and coming down. So this is why we advise against it. Moving back to the UV side of things, UV is a quicker way to get it to cure. But because it's a water-based adhesive, there are certain performance aspects that won't allow it to dry the way we need it to dry. So we're working on that at the moment. But we also need to realize that, with UV, comes other factors health-wise that we have to take into consideration. So we're trying to find ways around that at the moment. And again, it's just through testing. And one thing I will say is that one of the most common questions we get: do we test on animals? We absolutely do not test on animals at any point ever. So it might envision me walking around with a third head somewhere, but we're okay.
It's all right. Just a third head. It's no big deal. But the animals, they're safe. They're safe.
Yeah, exactly. No, we don't test on animals at all. It's one of the questions that we have quite a lot, and it's just something we've never done. We haven't had the need to do so. That's really what we're working on adhesion wise now. But I think at the moment, we've pushed adhesion technology in terms of our industry to as far as it can really go for right now. And, down the line that may entail something else. But look, we have a very good relationships with our chemists, and we're always working on new projects. So if something changes in that area, look, we'll be on top of it. Yeah,
that's great. Well, I appreciate it so much, Ryan, for you and having a chat with us here, and just exposing us to a little bit more of the science and kind of what's going on the tail end of the industry. Is there any kind of swan song that you want to leave with the people that are watching this video? People that are obviously interested in this industry and potentially your products, and anything else?
Yeah, look, my ethos is that just be mindful of the products that you're using on the skin. Look at the ingredients, ask the questions. And if you're getting some of those cookie cutter template answers, like you were speaking about, the body chemistry thing, look, like me personally, I don't care if it's our product or somebody else's product. Like we'll always try to answer to the best of our ability. If somebody approach us and be like, hey, listen, I've got this product. I know it's not yours, but I'm kind of, questioning if I should be using it. We can take that ingredient list and take a look at it and say, okay, look, that looks okay. We can never give a definitive answer, but based upon the ingredients, we can give a pretty good indication. So just be mindful of what you're using, and always ask questions, because without that, a lot of companies will continue to do what they've always done, and just supply products at the expense of the consumer.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Really was a great chat, and I hope to talk to you soon. Take care.